sing, there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. This is the season of the soul, a time to rejoice, a time to reflect, a time to return, a time to gather around the table with loved ones and friends, a time for song and silence, for prayer and confession to open the heart, a time to retreat to our sanctuaries within, a time to renew the life and spirit of our community. This is the season of attentiveness, a time to notice what has unfolded and what has not, a time to regret, a time to forgive, a time to remember cherished dreams and high ideals embraced by reality. This is the season of hope, like mist rising at sunset, like dew descending at dawn. Our hopes beautify and nourish everything they touch. Our hopes make us partners in creation, pursuers of peace, people who aspire to a world of justice. This is the season of awe. When our eyes behold it, may we feel blessed. When we turn toward each other, let us feel strength. When we seek the holy, may we find purpose. May we find courage. May we find love. On page 15, we have the joy of hearing the first blast of the shofar, that first wake-up call for the new year. And so, to help us open the ark, I am honored to invite up Stu Baker and Marcy Peraza Baker and our Ba'alei Tekiyah,
פחד ויושב
deeds of our past. We recognize our human failings and promise to forgive at last. Oh God of our ancestors, grant us mercy and grace. Show thought and wonder in this holy place. If I have done wrong, as I know we all have, be kind to your people in your compassion, love. We profess our faith, quiet our tears. Let nothing distract us as we face our fears. Oh God of our ancestors, grant us mercy and grace. Show us awe and wonder in this holy place. May I offer up our prayers without stumbling.
אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, יהי רצון שנזכה לברכותיך בשנת 5,780. O God, our God and God of our ancestors, may we know your blessings in the year 5,780. Eternal One, bless us and the whole house of Israel with renewed life, happiness and peace, comfort and courage, resilience and strength. May the words of our heart be acceptable to you in the new year that stretches before us. We are forever grateful for the gift of life. Page 22, we continue together in the English. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your great name fills the universe with majestic might. Your word creates twilight and dusk as your wisdom opens the gates of night. Your discernment separates the changing seasons and causes the passage of time. The stars arrayed across the sky reveal your design. You roll out the cycle of darkness and light, shaping day and night. You sweep away day and carry the world into nightfall, setting day apart from nighttime. You are God of all we can perceive, and all that Erev Aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, creator of twilight and dusk.
towards the bottom of the page. You have stayed long enough in this place, God said. Time to go forward. Turn your face to the future. Believe that you can cross this sea and survive. Inside you is Moses. Within you, Miriam dances unafraid. Lift up your voice and sing a new song.
By loving, whom and what to love. By grieving, how to laugh from the belly. Out of infirmity I have built strength, out of untruth, truth. From hypocrisy I move directness. Almost now I know who I am, almost I have the boldness to be that man. Another step and I shall be where I started from. Please join us now on page 40 for the Chatzi Kaddish. All who are able are invited to please rise.
Shira
Starting on pages 48 and 49, this next section of our service allows us to sanctify God's name. Though this is a section of our service all year, every day, on the high holy days we add texts about awe, about honor, and righteousness. In these three ways we connect with God and God's holiness. We feel a sense of awe when we ponder God's greatness. We honor God and all the people of Israel, and we seek a path always of righteousness. And so, in your holiness, give all creation the gift of awe. Turn our fear to reverence. Let us be witnesses of wonder, perceiving all nature as a prayer come alive. We bow to the sovereignty of your strength, the primacy of your power. We yearn for connection with all that lives, doing your will with wholeness of heart. Awe-inspiring is your creation, all-encompassing your transcendent name. And so, in your holiness, give your people the gift of honor. Bless with praise those who praise you. Bless with hope those who seek you. Give your believers a basis for faith, true happiness for the land of Israel, true joy in Jerusalem. May the sparks of David, your servant, soon grow bright enough for us to see a beam of light in the darkness, a promise of perfection.
tzadikim, yeru ve'ismachu, Bishalim ya'aluz v'chasidim berinayadilu. Bishalim ya'aluz v'chasidim berinayadilu.
And so, in your holiness, give the righteous the gift of a vision bright with joy, a world where evil has no voice, and the rule of malevolence fades like wisps of smoke. Good people everywhere will celebrate the stunning sight of arrogance gone from the earth. You and you alone, Adonai, will reign over creation, upon Mount Zion, home of your presence, and in Jerusalem, a city set apart by you. As the psalmist believed, Adonai will reign eternally, your God, Zion, for all generations. Hallelujah.
Kadosh ata v'norah shemecha, ein Eloah mibaladecha takatu, vayibam Adonai tzebaot v'mishpat, v'ha'el hakadosh mikdash b'tzedekah. Baruch atah
Page 54. In your love, eternal our God, you have given us this day of remembrance, a day for the shofar's joyful sound, a day of sacred assembly, a day to be mindful of our peoples going out from Egypt. Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu, ya'aleh v'yavo v'yagia, v'yira'eh v'yiratzeh v'yishama v'yipaked v'yizacher zichronenu ufiktonenu v'zichron avotenu v'imotenu v'zichron Yerushalayim ir kodshecha v'zichron kol amcha beit Yisrael lefanecha lifleita l'tova l'cheinu l'chesed u'l'rachamim l'chaim u'l'shalom v'yom hazikaron hazeh. Please join me in English. Our God and God of the generations before us, may a memory of us ascend and come before you. May it be heard and seen by you, winning your favor and reaching your awareness. Together with the memory of our ancestors, the memory of your sacred city, Jerusalem, and the memory of your people, the family of Israel, may we be remembered for safety, well-being, and favor, for love and compassion, for life and for peace, on this day of remembrance. Zofreinu Adonai Eloheinu bo l'tovah. Amen. Ufogdeinu bo livracha. Amen. V'hoshienu bo l'chaim. Amen. Eternal God, remember us. Amen. Be mindful of us. Amen. And redeem us for a life of goodness and blessing. Amen. Favor us with words of deliverance and mercy. Show us the depth of your care. God, we await your redemption, for you reign with grace and compassion. We will now continue silently through page 70, and this is also, of course, a special time set aside in our service for the personal prayers of our hearts and souls. So please take your time and, of course, be seated when you have finished your prayers.
before we go on, because I'm sitting here and Rabbi Bellows is yelling, because this piece was written by my brother, Rabbi Alan Bellows, and we love it, and thank you for allowing us to bring that music to this century. Thank you so much.
One of the occupational hazards, of course, of having multiple Jewish professionals in the family is you don't get to pray together ever. So this was at least a little bit of feeling that I could be with my sibling in some way. So thank you. The other two siblings are in Chicago. They're together. It's all right. So there's fellows everywhere. Let's turn together to page 72. Tonight, as we all enter New Year 5780, our thoughts are with all those who are in pain, who are ill, who are suffering. We send our wishes for a speedy recovery to all those who you wish to either think of in your hearts right now or whose names you'd like to share out loud.
Jan Truska.
Alistair Stewart.
Michelle Friend.
George Tremblay.
Ann Stern.
Renee Braswell. Timothy Mitch. Aubrey Birkinshaw. Jennifer Shula. And Kurt Bernstein. Rob Company. Lindsay Bennett. Bill Holden.
Carrie and Burl Bellows. Let's read together in the English on the page. May the Eternal One, who blesses all life, bless and strengthen all of us who struggle against illness. May we, whose lives are touched by illness, be blessed with faith, courage, love, and caring. May we experience the support and sustenance of family, friends, companions, and community. May we be granted restful nights and days of comfort. We pray for refuah shlema, precious moments of healing, and a sense of wholeness in body and soul. May those who care for the sick with their hands, their voices, and their hearts be blessed with courage and stamina. May those who pursue healing through medical skill and knowledge be blessed with insight, patience, and compassion. May all of us, the sick and the well together, find courage and hope. And let us say, Amen.
Adonai,
Now I'd like to invite up for page 75 our ark openers, Chris and Beth Mercier, for Avinu Malkeinu. All who are able, please rise. We read responsibly on page 75. We haven't forgotten Avinu Malkeinu, though we've overthrown kings and we disobeyed fathers, and we have no great liking for absolute power. Akiva stood before you in a time of drought, and his words went up like a flame on the altar. Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our ruler. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion for us. He was humble and forgiving, so his prayer was answered. Tonight we speak again in a time of drought. Dry ground beneath us, no water, only rock.
Not a hunger for bread or a thirst for water, but hearts that are longing to hear God's voice.
For the sea of faith is all but gone, the tide's gone out on the empty beach. The world mocks our hopes and life tests our courage.
Why do the wicked live on and prosper? Why are you silent when they prey on the innocent?
And if your dominion is kindness and justice, why is creation in so much pain? Avinu Malkeinu, sustain our souls. Send rain to our roots. Help us find a way to pray.
Make us humble and forgiving of ourselves and one another.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew these words. Help us speak them with conviction and believe their truth. 100 generations have stood before the ark, and they lifted up their voices like flame on the altar. And they put their trust in kindness and justice, and they gave their strength to make the promise real. Avinu Malkeinu, we haven't forgotten. Avinu Malkeinu, bring us back to you. Please be seated. Shana Tova. And good Yontif once again. This year's Rosh Hashanah Pop Culture Pop Quiz is about to begin. You ready? All right, please tell me which television show each of the following quotes comes from. The tribe has spoken. Survivor, good, 10 points. This is the true story of 8 strangers picked to live in a house, work together and have their lives taped to find out what happens when people stop being polite and start getting real. Real world, good, 10 points for all of you. Sashay away. RuPaul's Drag Race. Okay. I can't do the accent, but in the world of fashion, one day you're in and the next you're out. Project Runway. You're nailing all these. I didn't come here to make friends, I came here to win. That's a trick question, that's all of it. And last but not least, smile, you're on. Very good, you all get points for that. These are all, of course, examples of reality television, a genre that is not at all new, but has certainly come and become an enormous part of our media culture all over the world. Reality TV shows are so pervasive that not only are they broadcast most of the day, but they even have plenty of their very own television channels devoted to 24 hours of reality programming. Without realizing it, reality television shows have affected institutional, technological, ethical, and cultural realms. They show us the best of what humanity can achieve, as well as the worst. For every Great British Bake Off, there's a Jersey Shore. For every Amazing Race, there's a Temptation Island. They have redefined the understanding of what is real, and have changed the boundaries between public and private. The various reality shows all have one thing in common: a, quote, professed ability to more fully provide viewers an unmediated, voyeuristic, and yet often playful look into what might be called the entertaining real. A book entitled Reality TV, Remaking Television Culture explains that reality shows are distinguished from fictional television due to a Fixation with authentic personalities, situations, problems, and narratives, which are considered to be reality TV's primary distinction from fictional television and also its primary selling point. They are also supposedly unscripted and totally spontaneous. Reality shows are also distinguished from documentaries. Though there are noticeable connections to the documentary tradition in media, much of our engagement with reality shows hinges on our awareness that what we're watching is constructed and contains fictional elements. Now, the adults in the room hopefully understand that some aspects of what we are viewing are fake or scripted or edited to create a particular narrative. I wonder if our children who are watching grasp this irony. This inexpensive to produce, increasingly influential and popular segment of our culture has the ability to inspire us to better our lives, but it also has the ability to cause us to ethically devolve and regress. I've been fascinated by the impact of reality television on our culture, particularly on our understanding of morals and values. The Marcy part of me gets sucked into so many of the shows and sits on the edge of the couch with bated breath as I wait to see who will win or get eliminated from various shows. Personally, I have the most respect for and interest in shows which highlight real skills and talent. Who will have to lip sync for their lives on the newest RuPaul's Drag Race? Which intricate tattoo will lead someone to be named the next Ink Master? What crazy insult will Gordon Ramsay come up with next on the newest season of MasterChef? The rabbi part of me, however, is really disturbed by the narcissistic, cruel, and petty behavior on way too many of the reality TV programs, all of which is glorified for viewers to absorb and potentially emulate. This led me to look into the genre more in depth and ponder its ramifications for us as Jews, especially at a time of year which encourages us to look deeply at our own behavior and values and relationships. Even the prevalence of that phrase I quoted, the trick question, "I didn't come here to make friends, I only came here to win," reflects such a selfish, self-centered, and malicious way to interact with the world. Thus, let us take a look at some of these reality shows, such as hidden camera shows, the family-based shows, the dating shows, and the do-good shows. And let's see what we can learn from these prominent components of today's television culture. For starters, there are many disagreements about when exactly the reality genre began. Some argue that it was Survivor that started it off in 2000. Others believe that it was The Real World back in 1992. But in actuality, one of the very first reality shows was Candid Camera, which was created by Alan Funt and which ran from 1959 to 1967. Though such gotcha shows might be considered lowbrow and maybe a little cheap today, at the time, Funt's covertly filmed records of real people in unusual situations were a respected and even studied form of culture. Many scholars viewed Candid Camera as an important sociological analysis of post-war America. Funt's method was frequently cited or duplicated as a way of teaching responsible forms of citizenship, both at home and abroad. The hidden camera was capable for the first time of documenting many of America's institutions, from the judiciary system to even a psychiatric ward. Funt's show was celebrated for being a privacy-busting truth teller, and it was believed to be an arena where popular culture and social science overlapped. In a 1976 interview with social psychologist Philip Zimbardo, Funt admitted, "I wish I could use Candid Camera's humanness and non-threatening approach to help parents, teachers, or salespeople re-examine what they are doing to learn from their mistakes." Though Funt seemed to believe his show satisfied a higher social purpose, direct descendants of his, like Big Brother or Punk'd or Impractical Jokers, do not seem to hold much value other than sensationalism. Hidden camera shows today capitalize on voyeuristic tendencies within all of us, and they often show people at their most vulnerable, and often on their worst behavior. We see the face that the subject puts on in the controlled setting versus the real person who comes out when things get stressful. Now, the first family-based documentary show was the PBS series An American Family. Does anyone remember that show? The 1973 project featured the Loud family, that was their name, the Loud family, as opposed to Bella's family, we're just loud, but the Loud family of Santa Barbara, California. And it shared nearly a year of the family's lives as they unfolded before the lenses of the cameras. The series led to magazine covers, interviews, satires, and the Louds were held up as an emblem for the American family in the early 1970s. Surprisingly, the show was also quite scandalous. It was viewed by many critics as a manipulative sociological experiment in perpetual surveillance. One might wonder why any family would choose to participate in such a show. One of the sons, Lance Loud, spoke about his experience in a later interview. He said, "I remember one of the reasons my family went along with it was that we didn't even get PBS in Santa Barbara. We thought it was going to be right up there with a trout fishing TV series. No one imagined it was going to be anything major. And literally overnight, we went from being like normal nerds to much criticized and nationally vilified nerds." Also interesting is that the show did not spark imitators for many decades, despite PBS's high ratings. We didn't really see TV families again until we were given the gift of John and Kate, the Osbournes, the Hogans, the Kardashians, Chris Lee Knows Best, and more, who are all more than willing to open up their entire lives to the public eye. Most are edited to be the most dramatic possible. Most of the family members are egotistical and shallow, or at least portrayed that way. And many situations are admittedly fabricated by the producers. The mixture of these elements succeeds in damaging the image of how a family should interact with one another, how we should talk to each other, and what's appropriate to be shared outside of a home's walls. These shows challenge the key Jewish value of shalom bayit, doing what we can to maintain a peaceful home. Part of being a member of a family is learning what is worth ignoring or letting go of, and what is worth a discussion or a confrontation. As my grandmother used to teach me, if he doesn't put the seat down or put the cap back on the toothpaste, does it really matter? Is that what's really important in a relationship? But in a family-based reality show, these are exactly the kinds of meaningless conflicts which are then exploited for the camera. Because, of course, shalom doesn't sell well, so it's not broadcast. The only time shalom did do well was on Rabbi Shmuley Boteach's short-lived show, Shalom in the Home, which ran from 2006 to 2007. Now, I have plenty of other issues with Rabbi Boteach, but in this context, it was admirable to watch the ways in which Rabbi Boteach went into the homes of troubled families, and he helped them reconcile, rebuild, or heal the family's emotional wounds. He taught much about respect and love and values, often even slipping Jewish terms or concepts into his teachings. Now then there's the dating shows. The first of which, of course, was The Dating Game, airing on and off from 1975 to 1999. Love Connection came along in 1983. And the dating shows are so tantalizing and are so perfect for television. They all, of course, try to match individuals through evaluations of the suitors' responses to silly questions. The shows were lighthearted and happy, and they tried to show the best qualities of the potential daters. One would assume that the viewers would want to watch True Love, True Love blossom before their eyes. But instead, the television industry learned about the viewer's capacity to root for an unhappy ending. Some of the best episodes episodes, the most popular ones, included tales of uncomfortable matches, dating disasters, after the date he said, she said segments, or even the anticipation of disaster. Now, of course, Schadenfreude is one of the most sacred aspects of reality TV, but it was still new 40 to 50 years ago. Today's dating shows, such as The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, Paradise Island, 90 Day Fiancé, give us incredible access into the participants' lives, asking the individuals for immediate impressions, reactions, and decisions based on the prospective dates that they are meeting. The shows are heavily scripted and planned in advance. I hope I'm not telling you anything new. Both the men and the women on these contemporary shows come off as shallow, superficial, manipulative, and generally out of control. The portrayals of the genders are stereotypical and demeaning. Why would anyone want to date any of these people who really only seem to want their 15 minutes of fame is beyond me. Now, Jewishly, I know the very first commandment in the Torah is to be fruitful and multiply. And I know that God says it is not good for a person to be alone. But the message that many of these shows convey is that you are not complete until you are properly partnered off. These shows portray single women and men as perpetually desperate and willing to do anything, even something humiliating, in order to find a mate. The takeaway appears to be that we have to throw out all self-respect and manners in order to finally snag a mate at any cost. Now, just when we run the risk of feeling all slimy and dirty from these less than angelic shows, we can turn the channel to one of the many do-good shows. These shows tug at our heartstrings, they show us the power of the human spirit, and they prove a person's capacity to grow and change. And this is also one of the oldest forms of reality TV. Shows like Queen for a Day, which began in 1945, Strike It Rich in 1947, and The Big Payoff in 1951, were televised competitions based on personal hardship. The person who was worst off was the winner, so to speak. The audience would vote on who would win new appliances, vacations, or other items that were sponsored by the advertisers. Today, I think of similar shows like Extreme Makeover Home Edition, Undercover Boss, Intervention, or Pitbulls and Parolees. We get a glimpse into someone's life, the someone hopefully having a life which is much worse than ours, and this gives us a chance to feel better about our own trials and tribulations. We watch the productions swoop in, provide tools and lessons which hope to improve the person's life, and we all eagerly await word that the show's subject will accept help, learn, evolve, and come away better than before. These shows have a varied success rate with the people that they help, and some even have questionable ethics. Some appear to leave their participants much worse off than they were before they were on the show. Intervention and Hoarders are powerful shows which theoretically have the potential to help many. They highlight specific illnesses or addictions, and they take the viewer through an attempt at helping the sufferer find a way out of their situation. But are the showrunners educating viewers and helping the subject of each show, or are they exploiting real disorders for public entertainment? The Biggest Loser and other weight loss shows have been extremely controversial, as they've been exposed as fostering very unhealthy habits and even creating eating disorders in order to ensure the proper level of drama, the required weekly weight loss, and the best ratings. Previous contestants have later come forward, admitting to starving themselves, being drugged, or exercising obsessively in order to win. There are a number of active lawsuits related to all of this. The behavior necessary to be successful on the show is not possible, nor is it in any way healthy. And the show creates unrealistic expectations about timelines and the ability to maintain weight loss long term, as well as encouraging body dysmorphia. Now, in contrast to these shows with mixed levels of success, I find that seasons of Queer Eye are the most exemplary. And they seem to have the right intentions. And they do their best to better their participants' lives in myriad ways. And frankly, I can't get through an episode without crying at least once. Nonetheless, I do have concerns with these do-good shows. First, I wonder, does viewing them unconsciously give us a false sense of having helped someone? Do we then feel feel absolved of performing an act of tikkun olam or doing a mitzvah because we've watched someone do something inspiring on TV? My second concern is that these shows have the potential to make us feel that it isn't possible to change our own lives unless it takes place in the public eye. We can't settle a family dispute without turning to Dr. Phil. We can't face an addiction without our family arranging an intervention for A&E. We can't attempt to lose weight on our own, but we need to be on a reality show to make it work. So one of my most favorite reality shows, and I wonder if you remember this one, only aired for 2 seasons, from 2009 to 2010. And it contained a fascinating twist, which turned the typical expectations of reality shows on their head. And perhaps, I wonder, once its conceit was revealed, it probably couldn't run any further seasons. Perhaps you remember the show called True Beauty. No? It seemed to be a response to the more negative behaviors generated by the reality shows which came before it. Contestants on this reality show believed they were competing based on outer beauty. One season, for instance, was looking for the new face of Las Vegas. The participants lived together, competed in a number of contests like filming a commercial for Vegas, and one was, of course, eliminated each week. They thought that they were eliminated based on their success or failure in the week's challenge. However, what they didn't know is that they were being watched at all times by the judges, and that they were actually being judged based on their overall behavior. Each week, someone who had been unkind or cruel, unethical, or had broken the show's rules was brought before the judges and shown clips of their behavior. They were shocked by the revelation of the show's true nature and by the clear visual evidence of their own actions before their very eyes. Therefore, the person who won the show was therefore the nicest, the most cooperative, and the most ethical contestant. True Beauty forced us all to ask ourselves very important questions, questions which are front and center during this high holy day season. This show, and really every reality show, encourage us explicitly or implicitly to wonder, how would we act under those circumstances? If we were secretly being watched, what would the cameras see? Gossip? Insults? Underhandedness and manipulation? Kindness? Altruism? Connection and friendship? Ego? Narcissism? Self-centeredness? Compassion? Understanding? Bridge building? Honestly, most of us are practically living in our own reality shows thanks to social media. Thanks to many of our addictions to Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, and Instagram, we're able to share the minutiae of our lives with our online friends, and I'm not saying that this is strictly a bad thing. Yet, major life moments are not real until they're Facebook official. Events in the world can only truly be processed based on the responses they get on Twitter. We can't visit an exciting location without posting a photo to all of our Instagram followers. These events in our lives are certainly real, but our online personas are not necessarily honest. Just as the producers of the shows edit for the best ratings, most of us edit what we put online in order to project a certain persona. Now, I'm not encouraging you to write anything embarrassing or sensitive or negative. Rather, I'm asking you to consider what happens between each post in our own lives and in the lives of our friends and family. What happens between our moments in the public eye, or when we're behind closed doors, when we don't think anyone is watching. Rosh HaShanah and Yom Kippur remind us that there is a judge watching our behavior. Some may prefer to think of that judge as God. Others might connect more with the idea of the wisdom of the divine spark within each one of us. Our souls know right from wrong. We know when we have missed the mark. We have an internal sense of morality, and we know how to compassionately treat other human beings. Hopefully, we have not made it a habit of throwing tables upside down when we get angry. Hopefully, we do not immediately call someone names and start tearing out their hair in a cat fight when we're just a bit peeved with them. Hopefully, we all have the wisdom to see through the smoke and mirrors, the creative editing and forced narratives, both on reality TV and on social media, which are false, fraudulent, and even dangerous. A study run by the University of Pennsylvania, released just a few months ago in late 2018, found a causal relationship between time spent on social media and occurrences of depression and loneliness. Our perception of the perfection of others' lives, their carefully cultivated online personas compared to our own, increasingly makes us feel bad about ourselves. Psychologist Melissa G. Hunt wrote, she was one of the doctors behind the study, said, "It's a little ironic that reducing your use of social media actually makes you feel less lonely." But when she digs a little deeper, the findings make sense. Some of the existing literature on social media suggests that there's an enormous amount of social comparison that happens. When you look at other people's lives, particularly on Instagram, it's easy to conclude that everyone else's life is cooler or better than yours. So this new year, why don't we recommit ourselves to seeking out relationships built on solid foundations of connection and honesty? We can volunteer for organizations like our Shoreline Soup Kitchens and Pantries instead of letting a television show perform the mitzvah for us. We can reach out to those in our lives who need support with mental illness, addiction, or trauma, and help them work towards recovery instead of just ogling the strangers on the TV. We should get out into the world and do good deeds instead of sitting in our protective, isolated living rooms and letting others do them for us. We don't need reality shows to show us our moral or ethical core. We don't need reality shows to tell us what is real or what is true, because we know. We should instead listen for that quiet yet insistent voice within that knows exactly the right way to treat ourselves, our family members, our friends, our co-workers, and others. Each time we listen to that still small voice deep within us and we act on its wise guidance, it is strengthened. We must allow that voice to grow louder and more powerful. The more we listen, the easier it becomes to hear it. We know, even when we don't want to admit it, how to live with integrity, even when no one is watching, or reading our latest post, or viewing our latest video on TikTok. Next week on Yom Kippur, we read from Torah portion Nitzavim, and in it God gives us a choice between life and death, between blessing and curse. This season of repentance demands that we confront these choices to decide which direction we will turn this year. So what will you choose? I pray that we all choose wisely, even when we won't receive recognition, even when we won't get caught, even when we won't receive applause or likes, and even when no one but God is watching. Amen.
Source of
We now return to our Machzorim on page 78 for our concluding prayers, which begins with our Kiddush blessing. And it's an honor to invite up Ruth Levy and Stephen Nardine to lead us in these prayers. Please rise.
Lift this cup for the year that is gone, for mountaintop moments and the taste of joy. Celebrations shared, milestones met, all we've mastered and achieved since last we met. For wedding rings, tears, and kisses under the chuppah, new babies, first words, and first steps. For the children who bless our homes and bring life to our community. For B'nai Mitzvah and confirmants, young teachers of this holy congregation, ours to cherish and guide with love.
For beloved wives, husbands, sisters, and brothers, the loyal friends who grow more precious with each passing year, this community which nourishes us all, for all we've learned, for all we've struggled through, for challenges surmounted, disappointments met with courage, for last moments shared with those we love and lost, for parents and grandparents whose memories are with us forever. We lift this cup for the year that is gone, for the year that begins. May we meet it in strength, in unity, and hope. We lift life's cup and celebrate survival. So may we sanctify each day that is ours.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, olei v'ri'adafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yachol mikol am, v'gamam mikol lashon, v'kiddishanu b'mitzvotav. V'titan lanu Adonai Eloheinu v'yahava.
Can I tell them what you just said? Sure. All right. They were just whispering to me. Okay. That a year ago tomorrow, they were sharing the Kiddush cup under the chuppah themselves. So tomorrow's their anniversary. Happy anniversary. Can't believe it's already a year. Fast. Let's remain standing and remain on page 81. Rabbi Israel Salanter once spent the night in a shoemaker's home. Late at night, he saw the man working by the light of a flickering candle. "Look how late it is," the rabbi said. "Your candle is about to go out. Why are you still working?" The shoemaker replied, "As long as the candle is burning, it is still possible to mend." For weeks afterward, Rabbi Salanter was heard repeating the shoemaker's words to himself. "As long is still possible to mend, as long as the candle burns, as long as the spark of life still shines, we can mend and heal, seek forgiveness and reconciliation, and begin again. For Alinu on page 82, it's an honor to invite the Gerson family to open the ark. Page 90. If you are observing a Shiva, Shoshim, or Yortzeit for a family member or friend, I invite you to either think of them in your hearts or feel free to share their names out loud.
Avi Hoberman. Fred. David Greer.
Zichronam livracha, may all of the memories of our loved ones always be a blessing to those who knew and loved them. Together now we join in the words of Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, ve'alma yirat v'yurtei v'yalich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayechon b'eit Yisrael, v'adalal v'zman karim v'yimru amen. Yehi Yizar, Yitzalev, Yitzalal, Shmei, Yishal, Rizu. Le'ela, Mikol, Birchata, B'shirata. Tushbechata, V'nechemata, Da'amiram, V'yalma, V'yimru, Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabbanim Shemaya, V'chalim Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, V'yimru, Amen. Oseh Shalom, V'yiramav, U'yachaseh Shalom, Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, V'yimru, Amen. Please be seated.
A great honor I have as president is to stand here on the beam and wish you all a year of goodness, health, happiness, and shalom. For many years, CBSRZ has collected and donated over 2,000 pounds of food to shoreline soup and kitchen pantries. We can be proud that our collection is one of the largest single annual community food drives benefiting SSKP. This year, our Social Action Committee will provide bags during these Rosh Hashanah services for all of us to stuff with non-perishable food and bring back during any of our Yom Kippur services. This year, some of the food collected will go to our Chesed Committee to distribute to our own members who are struggling to make ends meet. We encourage you to give generously to all our neighbors in need, so please take as many bags as you feel you can fill. We will have a truck open before and after all Yom Kippur services so that you can put the bags directly into the truck. I do want to thank those of you who year after year have organized our high holiday food drive, donated bags, and provided a truck to make our food drive a true success. Tomorrow morning, our Rosh Hashanah morning service will begin promptly at 9:30, so please try to arrive a little earlier to give yourself time to park, have your tickets checked, and so our rabbis and leadership can greet you with the matkor and wish you a good new year. Thank you. I do have to mention that each individual member and each member of each family will need to bring tickets to each high holiday service, including every time you want to re-enter our shul, such as after Tashlich or after our break fast. At the conclusion of the morning service, we'll gather outside the shul and walk to the Chester Headline Ferry for our Tashlik service. Here the weather's going to be another beautiful fall day, so I encourage all of you to participate. Tomorrow's children's service with apples and honey will start at 2:30 p.m., but the real good news is you don't have to be a kid to attend. On Tuesday morning, our Rosh Hashanah Day 2 services will begin at 9:30 and will feature our very own Izzy Greenberg giving us the Bar Torah. You don't want to miss that. I do want to thank our rabbi, our cantor, our choir for just beautiful services. And also thank everyone who contributed and volunteered for the Oneg tonight. Thank you very much. After the Oneg, please drive home safely, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning.
You'll also notice on your way out that we have a table that has Yortzeit candles on it. You are welcome to take one home if you'll be lighting the Yortzeit candle for Yom Kippur at your home. We will now join together in a motzi blessing over the challah before our closing song and before we go out and enjoy that beautiful oneg outside on Main Street. And of course, it's a stunning round challah. Who remembers why it's round at this time of year? What's the symbolism? I see a lot of people going like this. Something with this and the cycle of the life and there's the year. Yeah, a lot of that. Yes, you're all correct. That is why it's a round challah. So let's all join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
May this be a year of love and kindness. May strangers
doing it.